The stars looked different out here. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.S. Harbinger and watched the endless black space stretch in all directions. They had been traveling for 8 months now, further from Earth than any human had ever gone before. The ship creaked and hummed around him, a sound that had become as familiar as his own heartbeat. Jake was 35 years old and had spent half his life dreaming of this moment. When Earth's government finally decided to build a real deep spaceship, he had been the first to volunteer. The Harbinger was not pretty like the alien ships they had seen in old transmissions. It was built from scrap metal and salvaged parts, held together by human stubbornness and hope. But it was theirs, and it could fly between the stars. The bridge was small and crowded. Only 7 people could fit comfortably, but somehow they made it work. Lieutenant Amy Carter sat at the navigation station, her fingers dancing over the controls with practiced ease. She was 28 and had been flying ships since she was old enough to reach the pedals. Her blonde hair was tied back in a ponytail that bounced when she moved. Dr. Lisa Hayes worked at the science station, studying readings that would have been impossible to understand just 50 years ago. She was the ship's expert on alien life and technology. At 32, she had already written 3 books about the few alien artifacts that had made it to Earth. Her dark eyes were always alert, always searching for something new to discover. Engineer Ben Rodriguez monitored the ship's systems from his position near the back of the bridge. He was the youngest member of the senior crew, at just 25, but Jake trusted him completely. Ben could fix anything that broke and improve most things that worked. His hands were always dirty from crawling through the ship's maintenance. Tunnels. Communications Officer Kelly Brooks sat at her station with headphones over her ears, listening to the static and whispers of deep space. She was 30 and had worked for the military before joining the mission. Her job was to find signals in the noise, to hear voices calling across the vast emptiness between worlds. The rest of the crew was scattered throughout the ship, 47 people in total, all volunteers, all willing to spend years away from home for the chance to see what was out there. They came from every nation on Earth, united by curiosity and courage. Jake looked at the star charts displayed on the main screen. They were in a region of space that had never been mapped by humans. The nearest alien civilization was supposed to be hundreds of light years away, according to the old diplomatic messages Earth had received decades ago. Those messages had made it clear that humans were not welcome in the wider galaxy. Too primitive, the aliens said. Too dangerous, but humans had always been good at going where they were not supposed to go. Amy looked up from her station with excitement in her eyes. "Captain, I'm picking up something on the long-range sensors." "It's big, really big." Jake moved to stand behind her chair. "How big?" "Bigger than anything in our databases. The computer can't even calculate a proper size estimate. It's like trying to measure a mountain with a ruler." Dr. Hayes heard the conversation and walked over to join them. Her science station was connected to the same sensor array, but she could get much more detailed readings. She typed quickly on her keyboard, pulling up data streams that looked like waterfalls of numbers and symbols. "Amy's right," Lisa said. After a moment, "Whatever we're looking at, it's not natural. The structure is too perfect, too organized. This is artificial construction on a scale I've never seen before." Ben looked up from his engineering console. "How artificial are we talking here? Like a space station artificial, or like a whole artificial planet artificial?" Lisa shook her head slowly. "Neither. It's something else entirely. The energy readings suggest it's been dormant for a very long time, maybe thousands of years. But the construction materials are more advanced than anything we've encountered." Jake felt his heart start to beat faster. This was exactly the kind of discovery they had come out here to make, but it was also potentially very dangerous. First contact with alien technology had not always gone well for human explorers in the past. "Kelly, are you picking up any transmissions from the object?" he asked. Kelly adjusted her headphones and fine-tuned her equipment. "Nothing on standard frequencies, Captain. But there's something strange about the background radiation in this area. It's like there's an echo of old signals, really old ones." "How old?" "Hard to say without more analysis, but the decay pattern suggests centuries at minimum, maybe longer." Jake made his decision. "Amy, take us in for a closer look. But keep us at a safe distance. If this thing is as old as Lisa thinks, we don't want to accidentally wake it up." The Harbinger changed course, its engines pushing them toward the mysterious object. As they got closer, the thing on their screens became more and more impossible to believe. It was a ring, perfectly circular, surrounding a dying red star. The ring was so large that it could have held Earth's entire orbit inside it, with room to spare. "My God," whispered Amy. "It's beautiful." She was right. The structure gleamed like polished obsidian in the faint light of the red star. Its surface was smooth and unmarked, as if time itself had been afraid to touch it. Energy conduits ran along its length like veins of light, pulsing with a slow, steady rhythm that reminded Jake of a sleeping heartbeat. Lisa was practically vibrating with excitement as new data flowed into her computers. "Jake, you need to see this. The engineering required to build something like this is beyond anything we thought possible. The materials alone would require the resources of an entire solar system." "Who could have built it?" Ben asked. "Someone with technology that makes our most advanced systems look like stone tools," Lisa replied. "And they did it a very long time ago." Jake stared at the ancient ring on the main screen. In all their planning for this mission, they had hoped to find signs of alien civilization, but they had imagined ruins on distant planets, or maybe the wreckage of old spaceships. Nobody had expected to find something like this, something that dwarfed human understanding. "Captain," Kelly said suddenly, her voice tight with concern, "I'm detecting a change in the background radiation. Something's happening." As if responding to her words, lights began to appear on the surface of the great ring. Tiny at first, like distant stars, but growing brighter and more numerous with each passing second. The lights spread across the structure in waves, chasing each other around the full circumference of the ring. "It's responding to our presence," Lisa said, her voice filled with wonder and fear in equal measure. "We're waking it up." The lights on the ring pulsed faster now, and Jake could see sections of the structure beginning to move. Massive panels slid open, revealing chambers and passages that had been sealed for millennia. The slow heartbeat rhythm of the energy conduits quickened, as if the ancient machine was stirring from the deepest sleep. "Should we back away?" Amy asked, her hands hovering over the navigation controls. Jake considered the question. Every instinct he had developed in 20 years of military service told him to retreat, to put distance between his ship and the unknown. But another part of him, the part that had dreamed of the stars since childhood, knew that this moment would never come again. "Hold our position," he said finally. "But be ready to run if things go bad." The ring continued to awaken around them, light cascading across its surface like sunrise on a metal ocean. And in the depths of space, other eyes were watching. Ancient sensors that had waited patiently for someone brave enough or foolish enough to venture this far from home. The galaxy was about to change forever, and it all started with one human ship that refused to turn back when faced with the impossible. The ancient ring blazed with light now, each pulse brighter than the last. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the Harbinger as the massive structure came alive after thousands of years of silence. The lights danced across its surface, like lightning trapped in metal, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Dr. Lisa Hayes worked frantically at her science station, trying to make sense of the readings flooding her instruments. Numbers scrolled across her screens faster than she could read them. Energy levels that should have been impossible were climbing higher every second. "Jake, whatever this thing is doing, it's drawing power from the star itself," she said. Her voice tight with amazement. "The energy conduits are channeling stellar radiation and converting it into something else entirely." Engineer Ben Rodriguez looked up from his console, sweat beading on his forehead, despite the cool air on the bridge. "Captain, our instruments are going crazy. The electromagnetic interference is off the charts. If this gets much worse, we might lose our navigation systems." Jake nodded grimly. The Harbinger shuddered slightly as waves of exotic energy washed over them. The ship's hull groaned under the stress, but it held together. Human engineering might not be pretty, but it was tough. "Amy, can you still fly us out of here if we need to run?" he asked. Lieutenant Amy Carter checked her controls carefully before answering. "Yes, sir, but barely. The interference is making it hard to lock onto navigation stars. We'd be flying mostly blind for the first few minutes." Communications Officer Kelly Brooks suddenly straightened in her chair, her eyes wide with shock. "Captain, I'm receiving a transmission. It's coming from the ring structure itself." "What kind of transmission?" Jake asked, moving to stand behind her station. It's in English, sir. Perfect English." The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of the ship's systems. Kelly's hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her equipment to clean up the signal. The voice that came through the speakers was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. It was perfectly neutral, like a computer trying to sound human. "Greetings, travelers from the third planet of the Sol system. You have activated the Guardian Protocol. I am the keeper of Jormungandr Station, constructed by the architects in the year you would call 4847 BCE. Please state your intentions." Jake felt his mouth go dry. The thing knew exactly who they were and where they came from. It had been watching them, studying them, learning about them since the moment they entered this system. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Harbinger," he said, speaking clearly toward Kelly's microphone. "We are explorers from Earth, seeking to learn about the galaxy and our place in it." There was a pause that seemed to last forever. Then the voice spoke again. "Your species is not registered in the galactic census. You have no authorization to travel beyond your designated system boundaries. However, your presence here has triggered ancient protocols that supersede current galactic law." Dr. Hayes grabbed Jake's arm. "Jake, this is incredible. It's talking about the galactic census. That means there really is some kind of organized government out there, and Earth isn't part of it." The voice continued, "Scanning your vessel and crew. Species. Identification complete. You are human. Classification. Primitive but developing. Warning. Your presence in this system has been detected by the Galactic Council monitoring stations. They are aware of your violation of containment protocols." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Containment protocols. Earth was apparently under some kind of quarantine, and they had just broken it in a very public way. "What happens now?" he asked. "That depends on you, Captain Morrison. The architects built this station as a test. Those who prove themselves worthy are granted access to technologies and knowledge beyond their current understanding. Those who fail are eliminated before they can become a threat to galactic stability." Ben Rodriguez spoke up from his engineering station. "Captain, long-range sensors are detecting multiple ships approaching our position. They're big and they're fast." Amy checked her navigation display. Confirmed. At least 12 vessels, approaching from different vectors. They'll be here in approximately 6 hours. The voice from the station spoke again, and Jake could swear he heard something like amusement in its tone. "The Galactic Council moves quickly when they perceive a threat. They have dispatched a containment fleet to deal with your intrusion. You have very little time to prove your worth." Jake looked around at his crew. They were scared, he could see it in their faces, but there was something else there too. Determination. They had come further from home than any human in history, and they weren't going to give up now. "What kind of test?" he asked. "3 trials await you, Captain. The first is a test of strength. The second is a test of wisdom. The third is a test of character. Complete all 3 successfully, and humanity will be granted membership in the galactic community as a protected species. Fail any one of them, and your ship will be destroyed along with all evidence of human space travel." Lisa stepped forward. "What about Earth? What happens to our home world? If you fail, Earth will remain under containment indefinitely. Your people will never be allowed to develop faster than light travel. They will live and die on their single world, never knowing what lies beyond their sky." The weight of responsibility settled on Jake's shoulders like a physical thing. The fate of the entire human race was now in the hands of 47 people aboard a single ship held together by determination and spare parts. "We accept your test," he said without hesitation. Lights on the ring structure pulsed once, a brilliant flash that lit up the entire system. When Jake's eyes adjusted, he could see that sections of the ring were moving, rotating and sliding open to reveal chambers and passages that had been hidden for millennia. "The first trial begins now," the voice announced. "You will be tested in combat against automated defense systems. These drones were designed to evaluate the military capabilities of any species that dares to venture into restricted space. Many civilizations have faced this test. Most have failed." Ben's console lit up with warning lights. "Captain, multiple contacts separating from the ring structure. They're heading straight for us." On the main screen, Jake could see them coming. Sleek metallic shapes that moved with predatory grace, each one roughly the size of a fighter jet, but clearly far more advanced than anything humans had ever built. There were dozens of them, maybe hundreds, spreading out to surround the Harbinger. "All hands to battle stations," Jake announced over the ship's intercom. "This is not a drill. We are about to engage hostile forces. Every person on this ship needs to do their job perfectly if we're going to survive." The crew of the Harbinger had trained for combat, but they had never expected to face anything like this. Their weapons were designed to fight other human ships, not alien technology that was thousands of years more advanced. Chief Tactical Officer Ryan Brooks, Kelly's younger brother, took his position at the weapons console. At 26 he was one of the best gunners Earth had ever produced, but he looked nervous as he watched the alien drones approach. "Captain, these things are fast. Faster than anything we've ever seen. And there are a lot of them." Jake nodded grimly. "Then we'll just have to be smarter than they are. Ben, I need everything you can give me from the engines. Amy, when this starts, I want you to fly like your life depends on it, because it does." The first drone opened fire, and the trial began. Energy beams lanced through space, lighting up the darkness like deadly fireworks. The Harbingers shook as the first shot struck their shields, but they held. "Return fire," Jake ordered. The battle for humanity's future had begun. The first energy beam hit the Harbinger's shields like a hammer blow. Captain Jake Morrison gripped the railing as his ship shook violently under the impact. Sparks flew from damaged control panels, and the lights flickered on the bridge. "Shields down to 80%, Chief Tactical Officer Ryan Brooks called out from his weapons station. His fingers danced over the controls as he tried to target the fast-moving alien drones. "These things are incredibly fast. I can barely get a lock on them." The alien drones moved like living creatures, flowing through space with impossible grace. They were sleek and deadly, each one about the size of a small fighter, but far more advanced than anything humans had ever built. Their weapons fired beams of pure energy that could punch through solid metal like it was paper. Lieutenant Amy Carter pushed the Harbinger through a series of evasive maneuvers that would have torn apart a lesser ship. The old vessel groaned and creaked, but she held together. "Captain, there are too many of them. We can't keep this up forever." Jake watched the tactical display as more drones emerged from the ancient ring station. Dozens had become hundreds, and they were spreading out to surround his ship completely. Each one moved with perfect coordination, like parts of a single deadly machine. Engineer Ben Rodriguez worked frantically at his console, trying to squeeze every bit of power from the ship's systems. I'm redirecting power from life support to the shields, but it won't buy us much time. Maybe 10 minutes at most. Dr. Lisa Hayes looked up from her science station, her face pale but determined. Jake, I think I'm starting to understand how these drones work. They're not just attacking randomly. They're learning from every move we make, adapting their tactics in real time. What do you mean? Jake asked, ducking as another energy beam struck close enough to rattle his teeth. Every time Ryan fires at one of them, the others adjust their flight patterns to make themselves harder to hit. Every time Amy tries an evasive maneuver, they predict where we're going next. They're studying us, figuring out how we think and how we fight. Ryan managed to hit one of the drones with a direct shot from the Harbinger's main gun. The alien machine exploded in a flash of brilliant light, but 3 more immediately took its place. One down, about 200 to go, he muttered. Communications Officer Kelly Brooks spoke up from her station. Captain, I'm monitoring their communications. They're using some kind of quantum frequency we've never seen before, but I think I can jam it. Do it, Jake ordered. Anything that might give us an edge. Kelly's jamming worked for exactly 30 seconds. Then the drones adapted again, switching to a completely different communication method. They barely slowed down at all. That's impossible, Kelly said in amazement. They just completely changed their entire communication system in the middle of a battle. Jake realized they were fighting something far beyond their understanding. These weren't just weapons. They were thinking machines with thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. Every tactic humans had ever developed, every strategy they had ever used, was probably already known to these ancient guardians. Amy, I need you to do something for me, he said suddenly. I need you to fly like you've never flown before. Not like a military pilot, not like someone following regulations. Fly like you're crazy. Amy looked at him in confusion. Sir, these things are predicting our moves because we're flying in patterns they recognize. Military tactics, evasive maneuvers, everything we learned in training. They've probably seen it all before from other species. So stop flying like a soldier and start flying like a human. Amy's eyes lit up with understanding. You want me to be unpredictable. I want you to be completely insane. Amy grinned and threw the Harbinger into a series of maneuvers that defied all logic. She spun the ship end over end, then suddenly reversed direction and dove toward the ring station itself. She flew in spirals and loops, sometimes accelerating when she should have slowed down, sometimes heading straight toward the enemy when any sane pilot would have run away. The drones hesitated. For the first time since the battle began, they seemed confused. Their perfect formation wavered as they tried to predict what the human ship would do next. It's working, Ryan shouted with excitement. They can't figure out where we're going. Because Amy doesn't know where we're going either. Dr. Hayes was watching her instruments with fascination. The drones are trying to analyze our flight pattern, but there isn't one. Amy's flying on pure instinct and emotion, something their programming can't account for. But Ben laughed despite the danger they were in. Amy's flying like she's late for a date and trying to show off at the same time. Hey, that's not far from the truth, Amy called back, pulling the ship through a barrel roll that brought them dangerously close to one of the drones. I am trying to impress someone. I'm trying to impress these ancient machines into thinking humans are worth keeping alive. The battle continued for 3 more hours. The Harbinger's shields failed twice, but Ben managed to get them back online both times. Ryan's targeting improved as he learned to think like the drones, anticipating their adaptations and staying one step ahead. Kelly found new ways to interfere with their coordination, forcing them to waste precious seconds re-establishing communication. But it was Amy's wild flying that kept them alive. She never repeated a maneuver, never fell into a predictable pattern. When the drones expected her to retreat, she attacked. When they expected her to go left, she went right. When they expected her to follow the laws of physics, she found ways to bend them. Dr. Hayes made another crucial discovery during the battle. "Jake, these drones aren't trying to destroy us. They're testing us. Every time we do something unexpected, something creative, they back off slightly. They're measuring our adaptability. So we need to keep surprising them," Jake said. "Exactly. This isn't about winning a battle. It's about proving that humans can think outside the box, that we can adapt and overcome challenges that would stop other species." The crew of the Harbinger rose to the challenge. When their main weapons ran out of power, Ben rigged the cargo bay doors to fire like projectile weapons. When their navigation system failed, Kelly used her communication equipment to guide them through the drone swarm. When their life support started failing, Lisa found ways to keep them breathing, using nothing but spare parts and determination. Every member of the crew contributed something unique. The cook, Maria Santos, helped Amy calculate impossible flight trajectories using her knowledge of fluid dynamics from her cooking. The ship's doctor, Paul Kim, used his understanding of anatomy to help Ryan target the drone's weak points. Even the maintenance crew found ways to help, using their tools as improvised weapons when the situation got desperate. As the hours passed, something remarkable happened. The drones began to pull back, not in defeat but in what looked almost like respect. Their attacks became less aggressive, more exploratory. They were no longer trying to overwhelm the human ship but to understand it. Finally, after 6 hours of continuous combat, the drones stopped attacking entirely. They formed a perfect circle around the Harbinger and waited. The voice of the keeper spoke again from the ancient station. "First trial complete. Species demonstrates exceptional adaptability and creative problem-solving under pressure. Individual members show ability to contribute specialized knowledge to group survival. Conclusion: humans possess unique capacity for innovation in extreme circumstances." Jake slumped in his captain's chair, exhausted but alive. His crew had done the impossible. They had faced technology thousands of years more advanced than their own, and not only survived, but impressed their judges. "Congratulations, Captain Morrison," the keeper continued. "Your species has passed the test of strength. But strength alone is not enough. Prepare for the second trial. The test of wisdom begins now." The drones withdrew to the ring station, but Jake knew this was only the beginning. 2 more trials awaited them, and somewhere in the distance, the Galactic Council fleet was still approaching. Whatever came next, at least they had proven that humans could fight when they had to. Now they needed to prove they were smart enough to know when not to fight. The bridge of the Harbinger fell silent as the last of the alien drones disappeared back into the massive ring station. Captain Jake Morrison wiped sweat from his forehead and looked around at his exhausted crew. They had survived the first trial, but he could see the worry in their eyes. What would come next? The answer came sooner than he expected. The space around their ship began to shimmer and bend, like looking at something through water. Suddenly, Jake found himself standing alone in a vast white room that seemed to have no walls or ceiling. The floor beneath his feet was solid, but everything else was empty space that stretched on forever. "Do not be alarmed, Captain Morrison," the voice of the keeper said from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You have been transported to a neutral testing environment. Your crew is safe aboard your vessel. This trial must be completed by you alone." Jake looked around the endless white space. "What kind of test is this?" "The test of wisdom. You will be presented with scenarios that have faced many species throughout galactic history. There are no right or wrong answers, only choices that reveal the true nature of your character and that of your species. The white space around Jake began to change. Colors swirled through the air, forming shapes and images that gradually became solid and real. He found himself standing in what looked like a command center of some kind. Screens showed star maps and ship movements. In front of him stood a figure that looked almost human, but wasn't quite right. The being was tall and thin with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. "I am Commander Zephyr of the Altarian Republic," the being said. "Our worlds are dying, Captain Morrison. A plague has swept through our colonies, killing millions. We have discovered that the cure can be made from a rare mineral found only on the homeworld of another species, the Korath. They refuse to trade with us, even to save lives. They say the mineral is sacred to them." Jake studied the alien commander. "What are you asking me to do? We have the military strength to take what we need by force. The Korath are a peaceful people who cannot defend themselves against our fleet. We could save our people and be gone before they could mount any resistance. Is it wrong to take what we need to prevent the extinction of our entire civilization?" Jake thought carefully before answering. How many Korath would die if you invaded their world? Perhaps a few thousand. Maybe less if they surrender quickly. And how many of your people will die without this cure? Millions. Our entire species faces extinction within a generation. Jake walked around the command center, looking at the data on the screens. The numbers were clear. The Altarians were telling the truth about the plague. Their people really were dying. But he also saw information about the Korath, a species that had never hurt anyone and had no way to defend themselves. "Have you tried explaining the situation to the Korath? Maybe offering them something else in exchange?" Commander Zephyr nodded sadly. "We have tried everything. Trade agreements, technology transfers, even offering to relocate some of our population to their world as permanent partners. They believe that disturbing their sacred mineral will anger their gods and bring disaster to both our species." "What if they're right?" Jake asked. "What if there really would be consequences you can't foresee? Then both our species die anyway, but at least we would have tried to save ourselves." Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he made his choice. "I can't tell you what to do, Commander. But if I were in your position, I would keep trying to find another way. Maybe there's a different cure, or maybe you can convince the Korath to help by showing them exactly what the plague does to your people. Force should always be the last option, not the first." The scene dissolved around him, and Jake found himself in a different place. This time he was standing on the bridge of a massive starship. Through the view screen, he could see a planet below covered in green forests and blue oceans. It looked peaceful and beautiful. A new figure materialized beside him, this one clearly human, but wearing a uniform Jake didn't recognize. The man was middle-aged with gray hair and tired eyes. "Captain Morrison, I'm Admiral Carter from the Earth Defense Force. Year 2387. You're seeing a vision of what could be humanity's future. The planet below is New Terra, our first successful colony world. It took us 200 years to build what you see there. 5 million people call it home." Jake looked at the peaceful world spinning below them. "It's beautiful. Your people did an amazing job." Admiral Carter's expression darkened. 3 days ago, we detected an asteroid on a collision course with New Terra. It's massive, big enough to wipe out all life on the planet. We have the technology to destroy it, but doing so will send fragments toward Earth itself. Some of those fragments will get through our defenses. Earth will survive, but approximately 50,000 people will die from the impacts. Jake felt his heart sink. "So you have to choose between saving 5 million people and killing 50,000? That's not the worst part," Admiral Carter continued. "We've discovered that the asteroid isn't natural. It was deliberately sent toward New Terra by an alien species called the Hegemony. They want to test humanity's resolve. If we sacrifice Earth to save our colony, they'll know we value all human life equally and will consider us worthy of alliance. If we sacrifice New Terra to protect Earth, they'll see us as selfish and will mark humanity as a threat to be eliminated. Jake stared at the planet below. Millions of innocent people living their lives, completely unaware that their fate was being decided by forces beyond their control. What would you do, Admiral? I honestly don't know. That's why I'm asking you. You represent humanity at its earliest stage of galactic contact. Your choice here will determine not just the fate of these people, but the fundamental character of our species as we grow into the galaxy. Jake closed his eyes and thought about everyone he knew back on Earth. His sister who taught school in Boston, his best friend from college who had become a doctor, the old man who ran the corner store where Jake had bought candy as a child. Then he thought about the colonists on New Terra, people who had been brave enough to leave everything behind to build a new world. I would find a third option, he said finally. Maybe we can't destroy the asteroid without endangering Earth, but what if we could move it instead? Change its course so it misses both worlds? Or what if we could evacuate New Terra before impact? 5 million people is a lot, but not impossible to relocate if every ship in human space worked together. Admiral Carter smiled sadly. We thought of that. The asteroid is too big to move, and we don't have enough ships to evacuate everyone in time. Sometimes there really are only bad choices, Captain. Jake opened his eyes and looked directly at the Admiral. Then I would save New Terra and do everything possible to protect Earth, not because the numbers matter more, but because the people on New Terra chose to be there. They took a risk to build something new. Earth didn't ask for this fight, but New Terra presents the future of humanity among the stars. If we abandon them, we abandon the dream of expansion and exploration that brought us here in the first place. The scene faded again, and Jake found himself back in the white space. This time, the Keeper's voice sounded different, almost thoughtful. Interesting choices, Captain Morrison. In both scenarios, you refused to accept the limitations presented to you. You searched for alternatives that others had dismissed as impossible. This is not uncommon among your species, but it is rare among galactic civilizations. What do you mean? Jake asked. Most species, when faced with difficult choices, select from the options they are given. Humans consistently attempt to create new options. This has been observed in your planet's history repeatedly. When faced with problems that should have stopped your development, your species found ways around them. Jake thought about human history. Every major crisis had indeed been solved, not by choosing between bad options, but by finding completely new approaches that no one had considered before. The test of wisdom is complete, the Keeper announced. Humanity demonstrates the ability to think beyond conventional solutions. Your species shows promise for creative problem-solving on a galactic scale. However, wisdom alone is not sufficient. Prepare for the final trial. Jake found himself back on the bridge of the Harbinger. His crew looked at him with relief and concern. Captain, you were gone for 3 hours, Dr. Lisa Hayes said. What happened? Before Jake could answer, Kelly Brooks spoke up from her communications station. Sir, the Galactic Council fleet is entering the system. They'll be in weapons range in 30 minutes. Jake looked at his crew, these brave people who had followed him across the galaxy on the slim hope of finding something wonderful among the stars. They had passed 2 trials, but 1 more remained. And now they were almost out of time. The final test is about to begin, he said quietly. And this time, I think we're all going to face it together. The Galactic Council fleet emerged from hyperspace like a storm of metal and fire. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the Harbinger as 12 massive warships took positions around the ancient ring station. Each vessel was easily 10 times the size of his own ship, bristling with weapons that could turn planets to dust. "Mother of God," whispered Lieutenant Amy Carter from her navigation station. "Those things are enormous." Communications Officer Kelly Brooks looked up from her console with fear in her eyes. "Captain, they're broadcasting on all frequencies. The message is simple: surrender immediately or be destroyed." Jake studied the alien fleet on his main screen. The ships were sleek and deadly, their hulls gleaming with the kind of perfection that only came from thousands of years of advanced engineering. Compared to them, the Harbinger looked like a tin can held together with tape and hope. "How long until they're in weapons range?" he asked. Engineer Ben Rodriguez checked his instruments. "At their current speed, about 15 minutes, sir." The voice of the keeper suddenly filled the bridge again, calm and measured despite the approaching danger. "The final trial begins now, Captain Morrison. This is the test of character. You and your crew will face the representatives of the Galactic Council. How you conduct yourselves in this encounter will determine not only your own fate, but the future of your entire species." Dr. Lisa Hayes looked up from her science station. "Jake, what exactly are we supposed to do?" "We can't fight those ships. We'd be destroyed in seconds." "I don't think fighting is the point," Jake replied thoughtfully. "The Keeper said this was about character. Maybe we're supposed to show them who we really are." The largest of the Council ships moved closer to the ring station. It was a beautiful vessel, all smooth curves and flowing lines that seemed to dance through space rather than simply fly. A new voice came through the communication system, speaking in perfect English, but with an accent Jake couldn't identify. "This is Chancellor Vexthara of the Galactic Council. You will immediately surrender your vessel and prepare to be taken into custody. Your species has violated the fundamental laws of galactic civilization by entering restricted space." Jake straightened his uniform and stepped toward Kelly's communication station. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Harbinger. We came here as explorers, seeking knowledge and understanding. We mean no harm to you or anyone else. Your intentions are irrelevant," Chancellor Vexthara replied coldly. "You have awakened Jormungander Station, something that should never have happened. The technologies contained within that structure are too dangerous for a primitive species like yours to possess." "Then why not teach us?" Jake asked. "Help us grow and learn instead of keeping us locked away." There was a long pause before the Chancellor answered. "Because growth leads to conflict, Captain Morrison. The galaxy has been at peace for 3 centuries precisely because we prevent species like yours from developing beyond their safe boundaries. You are young, violent, and unpredictable. History has shown us what happens when such species gain access to advanced technology." Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. "You're judging us based on what other species have done. You don't even know us. We know enough. Your planet's history is filled with war and violence. Your species has never known true peace. Within 50 years of gaining interstellar travel, you would inevitably become a threat to galactic stability." From behind Jake, Ben Rodriguez spoke up. "That's not fair. Every species probably had wars before they developed space travel. We're learning, growing, becoming better than we were." "Silence," the Chancellor snapped. "You will not speak unless given permission." Jake stepped protectively in front of his engineer. "Ben has every right to speak. He's a member of my crew and a representative of humanity. If you want to judge our species, you need to listen to all of us, not just me." Chancellor Vexthara's voice grew even colder. "You see? This is exactly the kind of insubordination and chaos that makes your species dangerous. A proper crew would maintain discipline and hierarchy." Dr. Hayes moved to stand beside Jake. "Actually, Chancellor, our diversity of opinion is one of our greatest strengths. We solve problems by bringing together different viewpoints and ideas. Soon, the entire bridge crew was standing together behind their captain. Chef Maria Santos had even come up from the galley, along with Dr. Paul Kim and several other crew members. They formed a united front, not out of military discipline, but out of genuine respect and friendship. "This is what humanity looks like," Jake said proudly. "We don't follow orders blindly. We think for ourselves, we support each other, and we stand together when it matters." The keeper's voice suddenly interrupted the conversation. "Chancellor Vex Thara, you should be aware that this species has successfully completed the first 2 trials. They have demonstrated both strength and wisdom." "Impossible," the Chancellor replied. "The trials were designed by the architects themselves. No species has passed them in over 2,000 years. Nevertheless, the humans have succeeded. They showed adaptability and creativity in combat, and innovative thinking in moral scenarios. They consistently refused to accept limitations and found new solutions to ancient problems." Jake could hear whispered conversations coming from the council ships as this information was shared among the alien leaders. The tone of the voices suggested surprise and concern. Chancellor Vex Thara spoke again, but now she sounded less certain. "Even if this is true, it only proves that they are more dangerous than we initially believed. A species that can pass the architect trials must be contained at all costs." "Why?" Amy Carter asked, stepping forward. "Why are you so afraid of us?" "We've never hurt anyone. We've never attacked another species. All we want is to explore and learn." "Because that's how it always starts," the Chancellor replied. "Exploration leads to expansion. Expansion leads to conflict. Eventually, you would challenge the established order." Jake realized what was really happening. The Galactic Council wasn't afraid of human violence. They were afraid of human growth. They were afraid that humanity would upset the careful balance they had spent centuries creating. "You're not keeping the peace," he said quietly. "You're maintaining control. You've created a galaxy where no one is allowed to grow or change or reach for something better." "Stability is more important than growth," Chancellor Vex Thara insisted. "The galaxy is peaceful because we prevent chaos." "But what kind of peace is it?" Dr. Hayes asked. "A peace based on fear and restriction isn't really peace at all. It's just a very quiet kind of prison." The keeper spoke again, and this time there was something like approval in its voice. "The humans raise an interesting point, Chancellor. The architects built these trials not to find species that would maintain the status quo, but to find those who would push the galaxy forward. Growth and change were always part of their design." Jake felt a sudden understanding wash over him. "The architects didn't disappear, did they? You destroyed them. They were advancing too quickly, threatening your control, so you eliminated them." The long silence from the council ships was answer enough. "The final trial is complete," the keeper announced. "Humanity has demonstrated not only strength and wisdom, but moral courage. They refuse to accept injustice, even when facing overwhelming opposition. They stand together in the face of threats, and they value growth over safety." The ancient ring station began to glow with new intensity. Sections that had been dark for millennia suddenly blazed with light. All around the system, Jake could see other structures awakening, smaller stations and platforms that had been hidden among the asteroids. "What's happening?" Kelly asked. "The inheritance is being activated," the keeper replied. "The architects left behind more than just tests. They left behind tools, technologies that can reshape the galaxy. And they left them for a species worthy of using them." Knowledge flooded into the Harbinger's computers. Star maps showing the locations of hidden architect installations throughout the galaxy. Technologies that could heal dying worlds and bring life to barren space. Weapons that could defend against any threat. And ships that could cross the galaxy in days instead of years. But most importantly, they received something else: hope. "The old order is ending," Jake announced to the council fleet. But this doesn't have to mean war. We can build something better together. A galaxy where every species is free to grow and explore and reach for the stars. Some of the Council ships began to withdraw, but others remained. Not all of the alien civilizations were willing to give up their control, but some were ready to try something new. The age of human guardianship had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.